All right, I do have 11:30, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to our 2026 Back to School Admin webinar. So some quick introductions. Hello, my name is Cassandra Elliott. I am a customer success representative here at TCI. Also on our call today is Morris Ty, our head of product management. We'll hear from him in just a little bit. Few housekeeping things before we go ahead and get started. I know we've all been saying hello in the chat box. For any questions that may come up during the webinar, please make sure you use the Q&A feature. Use the Q&A feature and then we'll answer questions as time allows. We're also hoping to get to a Q&A session at the end of today. This session is being recorded and it will be sent out via email once our webinar is done for today. So let's take a look at our plan. Today, we're going to look at some best practices for back to school, updates for back to school for both admins and teachers. We'll do a wrap up and then a Q&A. So a nice short session today. So let's get started. We're going to talk some best practices for back to school, mainly centered in on rostering today. So we'll do a demo setup of a clever roster integration. We do recommend having an automated roster integration installed, especially if you are a larger district, you have a lot of licenses. Definitely would recommend that. We're going to take a look at our managing academic terms, especially right around the corner with our term start dates. And then we're going to take a look at a couple of places where you might find some exclusions. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into our admin dashboard and take a look at some of these items. So in our admin dashboard, the first thing that we do recommend is that roster integration. So if you are looking to install this, you're going to come down to your Manage Integrations page. For today's demo, we are going to do Clever. So you would hit your Start Rostering Setup and choose your method. For Clever, you drop in your Clever ID and go ahead and do a test. Once you have that green check mark, then you know that you're good to go on to your next step. You're going to want to make sure you provide a contact for rostering. Please try to make sure that this is updated just in case anybody at TCI has any questions about your roster sync. This gives us a person to reach out to for support. Once that's complete, we can go ahead and hit next. And then we have to have the discussion about program assignment rules. We do recommend installing rules. It can make management a little bit easier. If you are somebody who would prefer to have teachers link their Clever classes themselves, you can always turn this toggle off. So today, we're going to go ahead and leave it on and hit next. Now that our class rosters are set, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at those program assignment rules. So these can be set using different criteria like course numbers, class names, or grades. It is always best practice to come in here and just double check that these are still accurate. So in this case, we have course number contains C. So if all of my second grade classes have a course number that contains C, then I'm all set. If that has changed in your data, we definitely recommend taking a look to make sure that these rules will still apply. If you were somebody who was piloting and you are now with TCI, welcome. Definitely come in here and double check your rules, especially with that license code. If you still have demo as your license code, those would be for our piloting licenses. You may need to switch them so that way your rules will apply and your paid access will be given to your teachers. It's a very quick edit. You can just go Actions and Edit. Also on this page, there's so much great information. This is where we're going to find that term toggle I mentioned earlier. If you have an upcoming academic term and this toggle is enabled, We will only roster that term once it is active. If you need your users to have access for planning, you can always use this pencil icon to provide preterm access based on this top box. You would set this to be one greater than when your start date for your term would be. So if my start date would be August 7th in 2 days, I would go ahead and set this as 3 to make sure all my data is captured. Hit save and run async. That'll help give your teachers access for planning purposes before your term is active. Last place we're going to jump over today to talk about exclusions is going to be on your staff page. On your staff page, you may have some teachers who have been excluded from the Clever Sync. Great way to spot these teachers is going to be with that red line next to their name. That's an excluded user. You can also use the filters up top. You can switch this over to excluded from auto rostering equals true to find your full list of users. These can be adjusted one by one using the Actions Edit button and unticking the box to exclude from auto rostering. You can also do this in bulk. You can tick the box next to each name. Your bulk actions button will appear, and you can go ahead and unexclude from rostering. I know these can be kind of complicated steps. If you get confused or if you want help on your admin dashboard, you'll have an option to book a one-on-one meeting with customer success. This is going to be our Calendly link where you can schedule a meeting on Zoom with our team to go ahead and take a look at your integration and make sure all your users are rostered. Morris will also be dropping that link in our chat box so that way everybody has it. Awesome. And with that, that's kind of our general best practices this time. So we're going to go ahead and pass the screen on over to Morris for updates.
Thanks, Cassandra. We did have a question around, explaining a Clever login. Do you mind going over the Clever single sign-on? Just like what it is.
Gotcha, absolutely. So I'll come back over to our Manage Integrations page. So with Clever, Clever can act as a middleman between your student information system and TCI. It will receive your rosters, and then those rosters are then fed over to TCI. Your users can log into Clever and then click on that TCI icon to go ahead and use that single sign-on. Great pro about using something like Clever or ClassLink. If your students do have any class period changes or they change between teachers, those updates will happen automatically.
Great. Awesome. We do have a couple more questions, but then I think we can take those later in the session. One thing I do want to remind everyone is if you could, please put your questions in the Q&A section so that we can better manage that. It might get lost if you put your questions in the chat. So please do your best to do that. Okay, so let's get into the next part of our webinar. So I'll be talking about updates for back to school. And the way I'll be doing that is I'll cover tech integration updates, updates we've made for some new TCI AI features, and then also a couple of new features that are exciting for teachers that you should probably know about. So the first tech integration update I'll talk about is the LTI 1.3 assignment details. If you're unfamiliar with LTI 1.3, it is an integration we have with learning management systems that primarily deals with being able to have single sign-on, to also have assignment and grade syncing, so grade pass back into the system. And so one of the things that if you're already familiar in using LTI 1.34 is when you create a new assignment, that assignment will create into TCI, and that will kind of kick off the workflow for being able to have the students do that work, and then also for the grades to go back into the LMS. The update here is that starting with the last few months, we released some updates so that if you made changes to the assignment, that you already created in your LMS, like Canvas or Schoology, those changes you made will also update TCI again. So previously, those the due date, the assignees, that type of information, like the name of the assignment, that was only set when you created the assignment in your LMS. But now, if you make updates, it'll also update the same equivalent information in TCI. So hopefully, that will keep the assignments in sync and working better for you throughout the year. The second update I'm talking about is related to another integration called QTI. And if you're not familiar with that one, it's how you can get our question banks from our assessments imported into an assessment platform. So typically, a district may get a QTI file, import that into Schoology or Canvas, and then be able to create quizzes and assessments tests directly in that LMS. And so the update we made here is for the newer version that we support, 2.2. We've also made the questions better organized and also include standard information. So you see down here is a screenshot of if you were to import a new QTI file today into Schoology, the questions will be organized into these lesson assessments. Previously, it'll be organized as one big question bank. And in some cases, depending on the type of usage you had, it could have been organized into units and lessons, but now it's better organized into the actual assessments those questions belong into. And what I don't have shown is the standards piece of it. So if you use a platform where you can import QTI with standards, now the QTI files from TCI will carry those standards correlated to the questions, and that will enable standards-based features inside of your assessment platform. And so I'll go ahead and go over the last one before I take questions. The last update for tech integrations is Cassandra showed the roster integration, but if it's something that you're already using or you will use this year, one of the improvements we made is we raised the visibility of what's going on in the system. So the roster sync is something that would run scheduled on a daily basis, but of course you can run it manually yourself. Regardless, if you have a roster sync running, we'll make it more visible in the sidebar of your admin portal so you can see that something's actually happening in case you're on another page and you're wondering, why hasn't information been updated yet? So that's something that we did. We also made it so that on the page where you're looking at past events of roster syncs, past roster syncs, if there are any high priority errors that might impact access to programs, then we'll have this red dot next to where you would click in order to see those errors. So being able to see errors for roster syncs is not something new, but what is new is raising the visibility of some the types of errors that would impact access. And these are typically things that will also better will show better this year as well. So we'll extract out, the ID related to the error, the class that it affects, and the specific error and what you might need to do in order to rectify that error. So those are the things we did for improving visibility in roster sync errors. Okay, so before I move on to the next section for TCI AI, are there any questions I can answer? Cassandra?
Sorry, talking while muted. There was a really great question about the Google Classroom integration and whether that would be considered LTI 1.3 if you wanted to address that.
Oh, that's a good question. So we do support assignment and grade sync integration with Google Classroom, but it actually isn't using LTI 1.3. It's using, directly a Google Classroom API integration. So not LTI 1.3, but still something that we support and works for assignment and grade sync. Any other questions to take at this time?
I think that's pretty good.
Okay, so let me move on. Okay, so the next two sections are related to new features for TCI AI and the teachers. The first one is related to AI, and how I'm going to go through that is talk about our approach to AI, talk about the features individually, and then also end on how to get access. Um, One thing I do want to mention is that both for this section with the AI features and the teacher features, they're all four features I'm going to talk about. They were covered in the summit that we had a couple weeks ago, I believe. And there's a great YouTube video that we have a recording on of the summit session where we demoed these features. So if you're looking for a more in-depth demo of the features, definitely check that out. But for now, I'm going to give you a quick overview and answer any questions you might have about the features. Okay, so the TCI approach to AI. So this is something that we worked really hard on and we really stand by. One easy way to remember it, it's the acronym is PAST, but essentially it's how we approach AI in all aspects, including the features that we build. We focus on purpose, access control, safety, and transparency. So for purpose, the AI features that we build, they're thoughtfully designed and they're all meant to save educators time and improve student outcomes. If it doesn't do that, we won't build that feature. For access control, TCI provides district and teacher level control to opt into features that display AI generated content. So of course, these features will generate some content, and the important thing is we give you the control. So at a district level, an admin has to turn on the feature. At the teacher level, a teacher has to do something in order for the student to see anything related to the AI feature. So that's how we can, get that control in your hands. For safety, TCI does not use teacher or student data to train AI models. This is a commonly asked question. The answer is we do not do that. We will never do that. And, it's as simple as that. Transparency, TCI supports labeling and opting in for AI generated content. All of the content we generate with AI is grounded in our professionally created and standards aligned materials. So that's something that you can really count on with our features. Maybe it's a little bit different depending on, what product you're using, but a lot of our content is grounded in the years and years we have of professionally created materials. And so any generated content we have will be based on that. It's going to be leveraging that to give you a higher quality of content. Um, and if you have any questions beyond this, you can reach out to us at info@teachtci.com. Or if you have a vetting process that's a little bit more detailed that you want us to review or work with you on, you can also email us there at the same email address. Now, let's get into the first feature. Okay, so the AI leveled reading options. This is a feature that we released, and it requires admin opt-in, which I'll get into when we get into the access slide. But essentially, this feature makes it so that we have more reading level options to meet students where they are. So we've heard in the past needing to have more level down options, and we've even heard requests for leveling up. And so this is kind of our answer to that. Um, do note that we understand Spanish immersion is something that we care a lot about, and so it's also available in Spanish. Students will not see this unless the teacher sets it. So essentially, the experience is a teacher can review all the reading levels, but a student will only have access to what the teachers give to them. So if you want, as a teacher, to turn on, the G2 3 grade band reading level, you have to go to a student setting and assign it to that student or the entire class. So it's not automatically available to the student. Okay. The second feature is AI Question Builder. So this is meant to really save teachers some time. In minutes, teachers can create up to 20 multiple choice questions. They can also simplify existing questions, the number of answer choices for multiple choice. So a great example of this is if you have a TCI assignment or assessment, let's say, and you want to create a version that has two answer choices instead of four, you can do that pretty quickly and save yourself some time with the AI question builder. Again, both the previous feature and this one is backed with our TCI approach. And so the quality you'll get is based on our grounded content. Okay. And the last thing I'll talk about is access before I take questions. So the availability and control. Right now, these AI features are in closed beta and they will be throughout the back to school season. If you want to join, if you already not joined, if you want to join, you can sign up by filling out a form that we're going to share in the chat. That form is also available inside of our admin portal, and I'll show you where in a bit. Um, but it is required for you as an admin to turn it on for teachers to use it. So do keep that in mind. I'll show you right now as I jump into my admin account and take you where you would need to go to change that. So, firstly, we have this area at the top. There's this link here to go to that Calendly link that we shared earlier if you want to meet with us. There's also this other link that you can go to open up that form for getting to the closed beta. So those two are great places to start. If you are already in the closed beta, meaning we enable the setting for you, you would go into the settings page and go into AI features to turn on or off those individual features. So if I wanted to turn off both of them, I could update it. By default, when you get into the closed beta, these will be off, and you'll need to turn it on individually or both of them if you want teachers to use it. So this is where you go to do that. All right. Any questions before I move on to the teacher features?
Morris, there was a question about the translated text being applicable with this AI reading levels. Did you get to address that?
Great question. No, I did not address that. So the question is, so we have this feature in our reading that you can select the text and translate it to hundreds of languages. And the question is, does that apply or does that work for these AI reading levels? The answer is yes. So if you were to be looking at or reviewing G2-3 as your reading level, that feature is still going to work for what you're looking at. So the answer is yes. Anything else?
I think that's good for right now. Thanks, Morris.
Okay, let's move on to the teacher features. So there's two of them that I'm going to talk about, new grades experience and teacher pace mode. The reason why we're singling these out of all the things that we're releasing for teachers over the school year is because they're both required for they both require teacher opt-in. And I'll show you that in a bit in case you get asked that question. But also they're super exciting, so it's worth singling out. The first one is new grades experience. So actually, towards the end of the last school year, this feature has been available for teachers to opt into and try out, but this is the first full school year where it'll be available, and we do recommend having teachers try it out at the beginning, and I'll explain why. So essentially, the feature is a newer grading experience. The existing one works great, but we've heard some feedback in the past and we wanted to act on that. So the newer one is going to be focused on what you assigned, the way you assigned it. So a typical example that would kind of show the difference is if you, as a teacher, assign out, let's say, our classroom activity slideshow over multiple days. In the existing experience, what we call classic, the performance, the progress, the grades, it all shows up in one column and one score in our system. With a newer grading experience, if you are assigning it out across, day one, day two, day three, you'll see one column per assignment. So you'll see the work and the score for that first assignment for day one, day two, day three, and that will be more consistent with what you can do in your learning management system as well. So the grade syncing is a bit more clear and aligned that way. Um, but that's essentially the big change. We've also made some improvements in terms of how it looks and also the student side. But we definitely recommend having teachers try it out because we will release more grading features throughout the year that are really cool, and they're going to be exclusive to the newer grading experience. So if you're on the fence or you have the teachers on the fence about trying it out, definitely have them try it out. Okay? I'll show how to opt in a bit on the teacher side. But before that, let's talk about teacher pace mode. So this was the most exciting thing to come out of the virtual summit based on the feedback that we heard. And so it's definitely worth talking about. If you're familiar with some other products that require or that allow the teacher to lock in what slide the student is seeing in a slideshow presentation, you'll be very familiar with this feature. So the idea is that the teacher, while they're opening up or presenting a slideshow, they can start a teacher pace mode, and that will start a live session for the students to join. and they'll get an in-app notification anywhere they are in our application. They'll get a pop-up to immediately join. And once they join, they will be seeing the same slide the teacher does. And so this is how you can control as a teacher the pace of the presentation, the activity, and keeping students on task and focused. So this was a really cool feature that we worked on, and it's also something that the teachers have to opt into before they can see the feature to turn on. So how does that look like? Well, I'm going to go into my admin portal again, and I'm also going to show you something that, in case you didn't know, you could impersonate um, teachers. And so you can sign in as a staff user. I'm going to sign in as this one, and I'm in a program here. They have their own settings page. There's an opt-in features tab, and we also have like a walkthrough to kind of walk you through and explain some things. But this is basically where you can see those two features and turn them on or off. You can see here that I'm currently not opted in for this user for the new grades, but I am for teacher pace mode. And it's simple as clicking the button and then, you're opted in or you're opted out. Any questions about any of these features I talked about?
The group would like to know if there will be a webinar or a flyer, any type of resources for where teachers could see these updates.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you are already an existing teacher with us, we have teacher newsletters that go out. We do promotional efforts or campaigns depending on the feature and time of the year. So if they haven't already gotten something, which I believe they should have, um, they will get it throughout the back to school year. But yeah, there's communication about these features as they come out. Other
So
questions to take right now?
there is one other one that I thought that would be good. Are there standards-based grading options?
Oh, that's a good question. Standards-based grading in our system is something that we're investing heavily more into. I will say that before the end of the calendar year, if you are interested in standards-based grading, there will be something coming for you. And if you have any specific questions, definitely reach out at info@teachtci.com. Those types of feature questions end up rolling up to me, and I'd be happy to talk to people about that sort of that topic. Anything else before we wrap it up and then take questions at the end, Cassandra?
I Oh, one good one. Can kids take notes from the presentation or do they just watch when in teacher paced mode?
That's a good question. So with teacher pace mode, it is right now just controlling the slide the students see. So there aren't additional note-taking tools. That said, our activities have note-taking opportunities built into the activity. So the way that's best used with teacher pace mode is as a teacher, you might want to take more time to pause on a slide with like a notebook question, and the students can, answer their work there.
Perfect. I think that's good for now. Let's go ahead and head to our next section.
All right, I'll let you wrap it up.
Awesome. Thank you, Morris, for going through all of those new features and answering those questions for us. So we're going to end our webinar today. We've got some great wrap up. In each license, there is going to be some in-app professional development. We would definitely recommend if your teachers are new to TCI, the Getting Started with TCI course, as well as Navigate and Plan. Those are free and asynchronous, available to the teachers in their programs. We do also have our 2026 Back to School Summit recordings available. These recordings are now on YouTube. I believe Morris will be dropping that link in the chat here shortly. These exciting sessions are designed to help teachers engage students and confidently bring learning to life in their classrooms. These will be a great resource for any teachers that have questions on how to use TCI as well. Lastly, we've got some renewal resources, product updates, and our help center. I know we've been having lots of questions today about integration, installation instructions. If you have any questions about that, definitely head to our help center, that help.teachtci.com. That's going to be the main page. There's great auto rostering resources if you want to connect an LMS like Canvas or Schoology. There's also some great resources in there for teachers that will talk about the teacher paced mode, new grading, using the AI features, all that wonderful stuff that Morris talked about today. So, with that, we're also going to give you one last time our customer success Calendly link in case you do want to book a meeting. And then we'll move ahead into our Q&A.
Cool. So I think I'm just gonna go down the list, and if you're sticking around because you had a question, then hopefully we'll get to you. So we had a question about many of our classes have co-teachers. We roster through Clever. Will the number of classes and programs translate over to the primary teacher? So if you have co-teachers scheduled in Clever in that class, it does come over to our system. So let's say you had three teachers, one primary, two secondary, for a class. The same class when rostered in TCI will have the same teachers. So hopefully that answers that question. If not, please, let us give us a follow-up. Let's see. Um, So I guess the question we have about co-teachers and if you're seeing zero for the number of classes in your admin portal. So I think in general, if you're seeing zero for a staff member in our portal for number of classes and programs, that normally means if you have auto rostering that the data hasn't come through yet. And again, it depends on the situation, depends on that you're in. So definitely email us if you have a question. But I would probably check to see if what's common is, especially in Clever, they'll have like a pause for the summer. And if the pause is still going on, no matter how many times we in TCI run that integration, that sync, we're not going to get new data. So we'll have to wait until the pause ends in Clever. So the Clever data is updated, and then we'll get the updated data after that. So hopefully that answers that question. If it's for specific types of teachers to have zero, then definitely, it could be a per teacher basis. Email us if you have any questions. Um, when we opt in, do we affect where the teacher is on? Um, when you opt in to any of the TCI AI features, what I showed in terms of the AI features becomes available. So for the reading levels, the teachers will then be able to see new AI reading levels when they're looking at their reading, and then they'll have the option to assign it out to the students. Similarly, for the question builder, when the teacher is in our question builder, they'll have an option to create questions with AI. If you do not turn on the AI features as an admin, those teachers will not see those entry points for the AI features. Okay. Um, how often do newsletters go out? We'll have to get back to you. I'm pretty sure it's monthly, but I'll have to get back to you. Send us an email and we'll let you know. Let's see. I have a rostering set of teacher substitute. Oh, substitutes. That's a good topic. I did not assign to actual teacher. Well, so substitute, I'll give you a general answer for substitutes, and then the more specific one will be to email us at info@teachtci.com because a lot of situations can happen. In general, for substitutes, we would treat it as if if you want to keep a teacher's information and bring a substitute in, for the most part, if you're manually rostering, that would involve changing out the email address and the password. So you're basically going to swap out who that account belongs to, and the identifying information is typically the email address. If you're rostering and you have a substitute, what we recommend is make sure that that substitute is in your roster data, and then when the next sync runs, it'll kind of swap them over. But again, it depends on the situation, especially if you're auto rostering. You might want to reach out to us and then just double check the plan. Let's see. I'm gonna go into. Oh, these are all great questions. Um, if you're If you're new, if there there isn't another webinar for if you're a brand new admin. However, that Calendly link that we shared in chat, that's the best opportunity to have some time with an expert on our side to help you get started with everything. So that's what I would recommend. It's either that Calendly link for a meeting or to go to the help center and see some of the getting started materials we have there. Let's move on. If you have an error in your upload, does that mean the entire upload didn't get uploaded or just the ones that have errors? If you have an error in a roster sync, everything else except for the thing with the error should be okay. So hopefully, I mean, pretty simple answer, but again, that one is dependent on the situation. So if you run into it and you have a question, you can always email us. What about a basic question? Okay. There's a question about print and slide decks. Um, for general feature requests or enhancements, I do recommend emailing us at info@tci.com with, what your question is, what sort of situation you will use it for, and that will flow into our user feedback cycle and eventually, give you an answer and then, add support for adding new features. So if you have a feature request, definitely email us and we will route that through our system. Um, Cassandra, you see anything else to focus on right now?
Mr. Harmon, if you're still on, I've got you. I definitely would recommend you email us. I think there was one last one about cycles turning over. Zach,
Oh,
if you're still on, I definitely recommend emailing us that question as well. So that way we can kind of really take a look at your data before we just kind of give a generalized answer.
yeah. So I think at this point, we got most, if not all, the questions. If we didn't get to your question, you can send us an email. Um, I'll probably, yeah. Oh, John's still here.
Oh, perfect, John. I just sent you your answer. Send
Okay.
us send us an email. We'll take a look at it.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up since we're over time here, but really appreciate everyone joining.
Awesome.
Have a
Thanks
good
everybody
week.
for coming out.
All right. Bye-bye.